Good evening, teachers. Giovanna, Gisela, Goni, José, Juan, Karen, Ip, Luz, Maruja, Milagro, Roxana, William, Gisela, Fidel, Roxana, Milagros. Good evening, everyone, teachers. Welcome to our English training. Welcome, my dear teachers. Welcome. I hope everyone is fine today. And today, let's continue this training, right? Good evening, Teacher Roxana, Teacher Maruja. Welcome, everyone. Well, teachers, let's start this training in order to reinforce, review, refresh, right? Last class, we reviewed some situations in order to practice as much as possible. And tonight, let's continue with those situations and let's review another topic from Minedu exam. Please, during this training is important your interaction. And as you know, here you have our online class rules. It's important to take into consideration our purposes because during the class or during this training, I reinforce our online class rules and our purposes. In this training, remember, let's develop topics from Minedu exam, different topics from Minedu exam. In this training, let's review and solve case studies or situations from different exams or nombramiento, ascenso de escala, and another situations or case study that I'm going to present you in order to practice, to reinforce, to review. Give you some tips to solve and pass the exams, right? Here it's important to take into consideration my suggestion, okay, because I'm an English teacher, but it's important that when you solve different situations, I'm going to give you some tips to solve and to pass your Minedo exam because this is the purpose. And during this training, I'm going to give you emotional and pedagogical support because I emphasize on that emotional because I know you as teacher know a lot of information, terminology, but what happens during the exam? Some of you not control your nervous. The reason is important to control your nerves and be positive. Good attitude, my dear teachers, during this training, right? Because you are here after your classes, you know, some of you work in the afternoon, some of you work in the morning, but anyway, you are here in order to prepare for your Minedo exam. Well, let's continue with more situations or case study from the second part. Then let's review another topics, right? Are you ready? Are you ready? Let me know, my dear teachers. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Because it's important your interaction. Good evening, Cantuca Master. Yes, this is the attitude. Thank you, teacher Maruja, Gisela, and Roxana. Thank you so much. Well, we continue with number 2 because last class we reviewed number 1. Then tonight, let's continue. Sure, teacher Efraín. Thank you. Well, number 2. Classroom activity in which students are given parts to act out in a given situation. They usually work in pairs or groups. Do you consider it a role play, a problem solving, or a survey? A classroom activity in which students are given parts to act out in a given situation. They usually work in pairs or groups. A, B, or C? A, B, or C? Share your answer. Write number 2, and then we are going to continue with number 3. One by one, my dear teachers, one by one, not 2 and 3. Only number 2, then let's continue with number 3, right? In order to read your answers. Number 2. Number 2, teacher Giovanna A, Gisela A, Milagros A, Maruja A, Roxana A, Efraín role play A. All of you share alternative letter A, role play. Role play. Why? Because it's a classroom activity. During your exam and here in this training, it's important to take into account here. Let me see. Are given parts to act out. Act out in a given situation. So it's a role play, right? Because a classroom activity in which students are given parts. This is a role play. Sure, teachers, congratulations. Now, number three, role play. Sure, teacher Peter, Diana. Excellent teachers. Well done. Number three, students think of ideas, usually quickly, about a topic. This is often done as preparation before writing or speaking. Students think of ideas about a topic. This is often done as preparation before writing or speaking. A, guided writing. B, role play. C, brainstorming. Number three, teacher Gisela C, Peter C, Giovanna, Milagros, Mimbela C, Roxana C, Efraín. Student think, right? You have here keyword, think. Student think of ideas about a topic. This is often done as preparation before writing or speaking. Brainstorming. Brainstorming. You relate this term think with brain, right? And quickly, brainstorming. I remember brainstorming. Goni, sí. Number four, students work in pairs or groups, talking together to find the solution to a problem. Students work in pairs or groups, talking together to find the solution to a problem. A, problem solving. B, guided writing. C, role play. Number 4. Number 4, Milagros A, Roxana C, Goni, Gisela, Peter, Efraín A. Most of you share alternative letter A. Students work in pairs or groups talking together to find the solution to a problem. This is problem solving, teachers. Problem solving. Relate. Students work in pairs or groups talking together find the solution to a problem. Problem solving. Solution to a problem. Problem solving. Relate. This is the key. Number 5. Excellent, teachers. Very good. Congratulations. Students produce a test after a lot of preparation by the teacher. The teacher may give the students a plan to follow or ideas for the language to use. Guided writing, role play, or brainstorming. Guided writing, alternative letter A, B, role play, or alternative letter C, brainstorming. Number 5. Number 5, teacher Peter A, Milagros, Mercy, Yesela, Milagros, Efraín, Roxana A, Giovanna, Roberto A, Milagros A, Luz A. All of you, Goni A. Share alternative letter A. Students produce tests after a lot of preparation by the teacher. The teacher may give the students a plan, follow, or ideas for the language to use. Guided writing. Guided. Why guided writing? Because learners produce a test after a lot of preparation by the teacher. The teacher guides. The teacher guides the students in order the students produce tests. Right? The teacher may give the students a plan, follow, or ideas for the language to use. Guided writing. Well, it's important to take into consideration keywords, and you are going to relate, teachers. If you don't know, if you don't remember, take it easy. Relate keywords and analyze alternative by alternative. That's it, teachers. That's it, please. The most important is when you solve any situation or case study or any question, read carefully, identify keywords, analyze alternative by alternative, and relate. That's it, right? Excellent, teachers. Number 5, alternative letter A. Number 6. Students find out information from others by asking questions or using questionnaires in order to practice speaking skills and or a specific language. A, role play. B, problem solving, or C, survey. Number 6. Teacher Gisela A. Great, teachers, great. Number 6. Number 6. Number 6. Teacher Gisela C. Marisol A. Mercy C. Rosa A. Goni C. Peter C. Luz, Gisela, Miguel C. Roxana A. Milagro C. Milagro C. Efraín C. Most of you share alternative letter C. Letter C. Students find out information. Here you have information from others by asking. Here you have asking questions or using questionnaires in order to practice speaking skills and or specific language. Most of you are alternative letter C. Survey. Why? Because in a survey, students ask questions. They ask questions in order to practice speaking skills and or a specific language, in order to find out information from others. This is a survey. It's a survey, right? Alternative letter C. Letter C, right? A role play is, for example, when each student has a specific role. For example, in a supermarket or at the hospital, right? But here, survey in order to find out information from others. Okay, and students ask questions or using questionnaires, right? Here, relate questionnaires with survey, questions with survey. This is alternative letter C. Number 7, activity with a task and discussion of the task. Activity to focus on language used in the task. PBI, PBL, or PPP. In this training, we review different approaches. Task-based learning or task-based instruction. Problem-based learning, okay? Or could be problem or project, right? And presentation practice production. Number 7, activity with a task and discussion of the task. Activity focus on language used in the task. You notice, repeat task, task, task. What is the correct answer? Number 7. Number 7, Rosa. B, Milagros. A, what means task-based? Okay, teacher Roberto, take it easy. I'm going to emphasize on task-based learning, right? And project and presentation practice production. And after those questions, I'm going to review different approaches, but I'm going to emphasize on those because it's important. There are new teachers, and I'm going to emphasize. Don't worry, teacher Roberto, right? Don't worry, take it easy. Well, A, B, A, or B. Most of you share alternative letter A. Remember, when we review task-based learning or task-based instruction, TBI or TBL. TBI or TBL. Remember, when we review task-based learning or task-based instruction, this approach based on meaningful tasks. For the reason, as I told before, you have here task, task, and task, right? And here in alternative letter A is task-based instruction or task-based learning. This approach based on meaningful task. It means that task is useful, relevant, and in real situations. When you find task-based learning or task-based instruction, it means based on this approach based on meaningful tasks. It means that task is useful, relevant, and in real situation. Just meaningful relate to useful, relevant, and in real situation, because we need to use a lot this term, meaningful. When you find in any case study or situation, or you listen to the term meaningful, relate to useful, relevant, and in real situation, right? So, in this approach, task-based learning or task-based instruction, there are stages. We review this information. We reviewed this information before, right? But I repeat because there are new teachers, because we reviewed this approach in this training. In this, just a second, because I have a message. Letter A is the correct. Thank you, teacher Peter. Thank you. In this approach, there are stages. There are stages. Read tasks, task cycle, and language focus. Read tasks, task cycle, and language focus. Remember, in pre-task, the teacher introduces topic and task and give clear instructions. In task cycle, second stage, there are three aspects or elements: task, planning, and report. In language focus, there are two aspects to take into consideration: analysis and practice. Right? So it means when you find in the sequence, because we need to present any approach in the sequence, when you find the students plan how they are going to report the task, the sequence corresponds to task-based learning or task-based instruction. The students analyze the kind of language they use, task-based learning or task-based instruction. It's important to take into consideration the stages: read task, task cycle, and language focus. In pre-task, remember the teacher introduce, the teacher present, explore the topic, and give clear instruction. In task cycle, three aspects: task, planning, and report. The students do the task in small groups or in pairs, and they're going to plan how they're going to report the task in front of the class, orally or in written way. In language focus, there are two aspects take into account: analysis and practice. Learners are going to analyze the kind of language they use and practice the target language. My dear teachers, this information about task-based learning or task-based instruction, this class or this approach I present before. But tonight, there are new teachers for the reason some of you ask a question about task-based learning or task-based instruction, right? So this situation number 7, activity with a task and discussion of the task, activity to focus on language used in the task, task-based learning or task-based instruction. Alternative letter A, right? Now, tonight we'll review problem and project, right? You are going to notice what is the difference between problem and project, because I emphasize, but tonight I present you information about that. Okay, please take it easy. And presentation practice production, we reviewed before. This approach, presentation practice production, is a traditional approach. And last class we compare task-based learning with presentation practice production. Remember, in task-based learning, task-based instruction, the teacher monitors. This is the role of the teacher. Remember, keep in mind, take note. In task-based learning or task-based instruction, the teacher monitors and provides help if necessary. The teacher monitors and provides help if necessary. What does it mean? It means if learners, graders, or students, listen to me carefully, learners or graders or students, right? This is when the learners need help, the teacher helps if necessary. Be careful. In presentation practice production, this is a traditional approach. Traditional. As a traditional approach, the teacher is the center of the teaching. in presentation and practice. Why not in production stage? Because in production stage, learners produce, and there are two productive skills. Productive, speaking and writing. Learners depend on the teacher in presentation and practice. In production, learners can produce. It means learners can speak or write. In this approach, presentation, practice, production, the teacher models. Control practice activities are common in presentation, practice, production approach. Control practice. When you find that term control, relate to the teacher control. The teacher is the center of the teaching. Learners need a model. Learners need a model, a sample, or example. Model, example, or sample. Terminology is important, teachers. Important because Minedu wants to know if you as teacher know terminology, information, methodology as English teachers, right? This is in presentation, practice, production. Control practice activities, filling the gaps, drillings are common in presentation, practice, production approach, right? So this is very important to refresh because we review here in this training and we compare when is task-based learning and when is presentation, practice, production. Well, problem or project later. Here, after that, we are going to review information about problem and project. Now, is it clear, teachers? Let me know because a teacher asked about task-based learning, presentation, practice, production, problem or project-based learning. Teacher Roberto, now, is it clear? Yes, thank you. Excellent, teachers. Very good. Here we are in order to reinforce review. Teachers, if you have some trouble, some difficulties, please, I don't understand, repeat again. I'm going to repeat. Don't worry, because you're here in order to prepare, review, refresh. Number 7, alternative letter A. In some situations, you're going to find TBI, task-based instruction, or TBL instead of IL, task-based learning. Now, number 8. Okay, teacher Roberto, thank you. Number 8. Mel Guerrero, a principal from Ramon Castilla High School, is monitoring a class. The principal realized the students participate in an active way. Mrs. Garcia, the English teacher, explores the topic with the class, highlights useful words and phrases, helps students understand past instruction and prepare. According to the activities mentioned above, Mrs. Garcia is in the stage A, pre-task, B, task cycle, or C, language focus. Number 8. A, B, or C? Number 8. Teacher Efraín, A. Teacher Peter, C. Goni, A. Milagros, A. No more answers. No more answers. Okay, A or C? Most of you share alternative letter A, pre-task. In this situation, Mrs. Guerrero, a principal from Ramon Castilla High School, is monitoring a class. The principal realized the students participate in an active way. Mrs. Garcia, the English teacher, explores that topic. Explores. Keyword. Explores. With the class, highlights useful words and phrases. Help students understand task instructions and prepare. According to the activity mentioned above, Mrs. Garcia is in the stage read task, task cycle, or language focus. Most of you share alternative letter A, read task. Remember, in task-based learning or task-based instruction, there are 3 stages. The first one is pre-task. In pre-task, the teacher introduced, the teacher explored the topic with the class. The teacher helps students to understand instructions. Because in pre-task, it's important that teacher realize the whole class understood instruction. Why? Because if learners understood the instruction, they are going to do the task because they understood the instructions. So this is pre-task. Pre-task. In pre-task, the teacher introduce, the teacher explore the topic, the teacher help learners to understand the instructions. This is in pre-task. In task cycle, remember, in task cycle, there are 3 stages. Task, planning, and report. Task, planning, and report. Remember, re. Task, planning, and report. The students do the task in pairs or in small groups. The students plan how they are going to report the task when they have finished. In front of the class, could be orally or could be in written way. In language focus, the third stage, language focus, there are 2 aspects or elements: analysis and practice. Analysis and practice, ANAPRA. Analysis and practice. The students analyze the kind of language they use and practice the target language. Target language is the language students are learning. When you find target language, relate to English. Why? Because target language is the language students are learning. They are learning English, so the target language is English. It is very important to take into account in task-based learning or task-based instruction. This approach, task-based learning or task-based instructions, based on meaningful tasks. It means that task is useful, relevant, and in real situations. So for number 8, the correct alternative is alternative letter A. Letter A. That's it, right? Remember, For example, it's not necessary to memorize the whole information. In my case, in my experience, my learning style, for example, I try to relate to the stages in task cycle, capillary. That's it, in my learning style. If my learning style helps you, okay. For the reason I share with you, but you have your own learning style, right? In language focus and analysis and practice, it means if you find in the sequence that students analyze the kind of language they use, task-based learning. The students report the task in front of the class, task-based learning. The students, for example, produce or use the target language, task-based learning. The teacher monitors and provides help if necessary, task-based learning. It's important to take into account those aspects in order to choose the correct alternative. Is it clear, my dear teachers, about task-based learning or task-based instruction? And here you have the answer key from number 2 to number 8. Is it clear? Let me know. All clear. Peter, okay, is excellent. Thank you. Now, let's continue. Now, here I changed the letter, but I don't know why. Changed for letter. Oops. I have changed this with black letters. It's much better. Just a second in order to change because here white letters in some cases are not clear. Just a second, teachers, please. Just a second. Don't move. You can move in order to drink some water, but I'm going to change because I changed letters, right? Just a second. Okay, teacher, just a second. Just a second because I'm going to change with black letters. Just a second, don't move. Okay, thank you, teachers. I'm here. Just a second. because I have changed. Here we have, okay. Present with black leather. Okay, now let's continue with more topics from Minedo exam. Let's talk about teachers here. Just a second. About problem-based learning, right? Problem-based learning. When we talk about problem-based learning, PBL, as you know, problem-based learning based on real life situations. Real life situations. And you know, there are a lot of problems in our society or based on our context at school. Problems are complex and open-ended. What does it mean, open-ended? A problem has a lot of solutions, not only one. The reason is open-ended. And when we work with this approach, students can work in groups to solve problems, to suggest, to contribute, promote, create awareness. In problem-based learning, learners can use resources, including technology resources, to work together to solve problems. Problems often incorporate real-life situations. My dear teachers, when you find in the sequence, you find the students promote, contribute, suggest, make a list, create awareness, or in some situations, they are part of the solutions, the sequence corresponds to problem-based learning. That's it. That's it. Those aspects is important to take into account. I'm going to repeat again because I review a lot of situations, and when Minedo present problem-based learning, present how do learners contribute, right? When learners contribute, promote, suggest, make a list, create awareness, or they are part of the solutions, the sequence corresponds to problem-based learning. And a problem has different solutions, a lot of solutions, not only one. We as teachers, when we want to work with this approach, it's important to prioritize the problem because learners cannot choose the problem. Keep in mind this, I note, in problem-based learning, learners cannot choose the problem. We as teachers should prioritize with different teachers from our school, with the principal, with the community, parents, teachers, etc. But learners cannot choose the problem. This is problem-based learning. Now, project-based learning, project. As you know, we work with this approach because there are a lot of approaches. We can work with our learners, but it depends on the purpose. It depends on the purpose. Project-based learning, this approach, for example, if your purpose is to reinforce or develop a speaking skill, right? Speaking or develop pronunciation, some learners are going to sing, maybe sing a song. Another, they're going to present a poem, a tongue twister, right? They can choose. But the purpose is to improve pronunciation, for example. Improve pronunciation. Some of them, they are going to sing. Another learner, they're going to present a tongue twister, dialogue, a presentation, because the purpose is to improve pronunciation. So in project-based learning, learners can choose a topic. As a result, they're going to present a product, a presentation, performance, right? This is very important to take into account. And in project-based learning, learners also can use technology resources. In project-based learning, this approach helps our learners to think, okay, and to create. This is very important to take into account in project-based learning. And our role as teachers, we facilitator. We facilitate our learners. For example, if some of them decide to present a tongue twister, okay, excellent. Or teacher, I'm going to present, going to sing, right? Because the purpose is to improve pronunciation, right? This is project-based learning. Learners can use different resources, magazines, books, and they can use technology resources too. This is project-based learning. Similarities between problem and project-based learning. Similarities. Both help students gain critical thinking. Both require students to be motivated and self-directed. Motivated, right? Because when we take into account our students' interests, our students' needs, motivation increase from our learners. It's important we as teachers motivate our learners to learn English, because for some of them, English is not easy. But we as teachers, it's our purpose to motivate, to help them, to guide them. Both in problem and project, learners can use different resources, classroom resources and technology, right? And in project and problem, our role as facilitators. Facilitators. This is our role, teachers. We can facilitate our learners, because if we don't facilitate some of them, some of our learners, they think, okay, I can't, teacher, I cannot speak, I cannot write, right? So it's important to facilitate our learner, right, with different activities. Differences between problem and project. Differences. Problem and project. Problem, remember, based on real life situations. And learners work together in order to solve a problem, or to find a solution, or to create awareness, promote, contribute, suggest. In problem-based learning, students don't choose their topics. As I told before, in problem-based learning, the students don't choose their topics. It means we as teachers, with principal, parents, and other teachers, prioritize the problem. In project-based learning, learners can work collaborative or individual. And in project-based learning, students can choose a topic. Content-based learning. Content-based learning, CBL or CBI. CBL or CBI, content-based learning or content-based instruction. In CBL or CBI, this approach based on any topic or any subject, but that topic or the subject based on our students' interest. This is the key. Content-based learning or content-based instruction based on any topic or any subject, but the topic or the subject based on students' interest. As I told before, when we take into consideration a student's interest, motivation increase, right? Motivation increase. So this is very important to take into consideration. In content-based learning, learners develop their linguistic ability in the target language. Learners develop their linguistic ability in English. Target language relate to, because you're going to find I love these terms because when you're going to solve different situations, you're going to find target language. Target language is the language students are learning. They are learning English, so the target language is English. Imagine that here, because here, or maybe in some private school, because in private schools, some of our learners learn French or Japanese, right? So the target language is the language they are learning. But in our case, our learners are learning English, so the target language is English. CBI or CBL has become a popular approach because learners' motivation seems to increase when students learn about something that interests them rather than just studying the language. This is very important. When you find content-based learning or content-based instruction relate to any topic or any subject, but the topic or the subject based on the student's interest. This approach can make the learning of the target language a more motivating and interesting process because learners use the language with a real-life purpose. This can make learners more confident and autonomous. It is a fact that CBI, content-based instructions or content-based learning, constitutes one of the most relevant and significant approaches of language teaching. Basically, because it offers important opportunities to match the learner's needs with meaningful content. Meaningful, useful, relevant, and in real situations in order to promote language acquisition. Just a second, teachers. I'm going to drink some water, please. Thank you. Now, content is the use of subject matter for second foreign language teaching purposes. Subject matter may consist of topics or themes-based interest or need in an adult. This is very important to take into consideration. Students' needs. Now, there are many ways to approach creating CBL lesson. This is one possible way. For example, in preparation, Choose a subject of interest to students. Find 3 or 4 suitable sources that deal with different aspects of the subject. This could be websites, reference books, audio or video of lectures, or even real people. It's in preparation. During the lesson, divide the class into small groups and assign each group a small research task and a source of information to use to help them fulfill the task. Then, once they have done their research, they form new groups with students that use other information sources and share and compare their information. There should then be some product as the end result of this sharing of information, which could take the form of a group report or presentation of some kind, right? It means in content-based learning or content-based instruction, if you find learners use different resources, we need to help as teachers because we are going to find the students are going to read about any topic. But interest students, we need to present that interest students. So you are going to relate to content-based learning. Learners are going to form groups and then they are going to, for example, it depends on the activity, right? They are going to divide the class. They are going to divide, for example, 4 groups, and you present, for example, an article, and the article has 4 paragraphs, so you divide the class into 4 teams, and you are going to give for each one a paragraph. Then they are going to share information. Okay, they are going to form groups in order to exchange information. So this is content-based learning or content-based instruction. When we are going to solve here, we are going to solve different situations based on different approaches. You are going to realize when is content-based learning, problem-based learning, project-based learning, right? So this is content-based learning. During the lesson. Okay. In content-based learning or content-based instruction, we find explicit instruction, explicit and implicit. In explicit instruction, when you're teaching a second language, there are two major instructional styles that you might use. One is explicit instruction, which is formal instruction that has students consciously focus on language aspects, such as grammatical forms. Explicit instructions involve activities like worksheets, repetition, or fill in the blank activities where students have to properly conjugate the verb. The idea is to have students consciously focus on learn grammatical forms as well as their purpose and position in a sentence. In summary, teachers, because it's not necessary to memorize the whole information. When you find explicit relate to language aspects, such as grammatical forms. When you find forms, it refers to grammatical structures. Grammatical structures. This is explicit. Explicit instruction relate to language aspects. And language aspects relate to grammatical forms. And grammatical forms, these term forms relate to structure, grammatical structure. For this reason, as I told at the beginning of this training, it's important to know terminology. It means forms, grammatical forms, grammatical instructions, grammatical structures, right? Forms structures. Grammatical forms, grammatical structures. Right? This is explicit, explicit. Now, implicit. Implicit instruction involves giving students communication-based activities or having them watch movies or read books in their target language. Right? This is implicit instruction related to communication activities. Communication. Communication means interaction. Communication means interaction. So implicit instruction involves giving students communication-based activities or having them watch movies or read books in their target language in English. This is implicit. Now, practice. What is the main purpose of having an end presentation in a content-based instruction lesson? What is the main purpose of having an end presentation in a content-based instruction lesson? A, make sure the students were actually doing their work. B, to have students practice production skills. C, you don't need an end presentation in CBI. D, so the students have a goal to work towards. The main purpose of having an end presentation in a content-based instruction. A, B, C, or D. This is a practice according to content-based learning or content-based instruction. Number one. Number one, what is the main purpose? Teacher Giovanna A, Teacher Efraín D. Okay. The main purpose of having an end presentation in a content-based instruction lesson. Some of you share alternative letter B, Teacher Leida, Giovanna A, and Teacher Efraín D, Teacher A. Okay, let's analyze. End presentation. Do you consider the purpose is to make sure the students were actually doing their work? Do you consider this is the main purpose of having an end presentation? End presentation, to make sure the students were actually doing their work, or to have students practice production skills? To have students practice production skills. You know, there are two productive skills, right? Two productive skills, speaking and writing. Or you don't need an end presentation in CBI. Or so the students have a goal to work towards. What is the main purpose of having an end presentation? End presentation, teachers. Analyze and reflect. If you consider your answer is incorrect, you can change. But if you are sure, don't change. A, B, C, or D. What is the main purpose of having an end presentation? End presentation. What is the main purpose of having an end presentation? A, B, C, or D. Analyze, and if you notice your answer is incorrect, you can change. Well, in number one, the purpose or the main purpose of having an presentation is to have students practice production skills. Why? Because what is the main purpose of having an end presentation? Learners are going to practice production skills. Could be speaking or writing. Alternative letter B. Exactly, my dear teacher Roberto. B. Excellent, teachers. Don't worry if you made mistakes, because mistakes are part of your learning. Some of you say, but teacher, we are teachers, right? We are teachers, but we can make mistakes. Why not? The most important, if you teachers reflect on your mistakes here in this training during your Minedo exam, it's important to choose the correct alternative. Alternative letter B for situation number one. Now, let's continue with number two. How does content-based instruction increase student motivation? A, by allowing them to choose topics they are interested in. B, by giving them complete free reign of the classroom. C, CBI does not noticeably increase student motivation. D, by having them do a presentation at the end. How does content-based instruction increase student motivation? A, B, or C, or D. A, B, C, D. Okay, teacher, share your answer, read carefully. Number 2. Teacher Roberto, the number 2 is letter A. Peter A. Efraín A. Leida A. Goni A. Rosa A. Roberto A. Peter A. Roberto A. Luz A. All of you share alternative letter A. How does content-based instruction increase student motivation? By allowing them to choose topics they are interested in. This is the key. Interested in students' interest. Keep in mind and take notes, right? This is very important. In content-based learning or content-based instruction, it's important to take into consideration students' interest. Alternative letter A. Fantastic, teachers. Well done. Number 3. Which of the following is not an example of implicit language instruction? Implicit. We review here explicit and implicit, remember? So, which of the following is not an example of implicit language instruction? A. Vocabulary list. B. Content-based instruction. C. Immersion. D. Natural conversation in the target language. A, B, C, D. Number 3. Number 3, Leida A, Marisol A, Efraín A, Luz A. Do you consider vocabulary list is not an example of implicit language instruction? Analyze, my dear teachers, carefully. Implicit. This is not an example. It's not an example of implicit language instruction. Implicit. Do you remember when we review implicit, it refers to implicit. Implicit refers to, who remembers? Implicit instruction refers to Roberto A. refers to communication-based activities. Remember, implicit instruction based on communication-based activities. Communication-based activities. Communication. So, do you consider vocabulary list is not an example of implicit language instruction? Is not. Communication means interaction. You know, if our learners are going to communicate, they're going to interact, they need vocabulary. They need vocabulary because implicit instruction based on communication-based activities. Communication. So, vocabulary list is an example of implicit language instruction. Because if learners are going to communicate, they're going to interact, they need vocabulary. So it's not alternative letter A. Because here, each of the following is not an example. Now, B, C, or D? Because all of you share alternative letter A. But letter A is an example. But the question is not an example. Teacher Maruja, D, or number 3, D, natural conversation in the target language. Natural conversation, implicit based on communication, based activity, communication, conversation. Natural conversation in English. Analyze. Teacher Efraín, B. Let's analyze B. B, content-based instruction. My dear teacher Efraín, how do you realize alternative letter B is not an example of implicit instruction? Because content-based instruction is an approach, right? It's an approach. As you notice, content-based instruction or content-based learning is an approach. For the reason, it's not an example because this is the approach, content-based instruction. So alternative letter B. Alternative letter B is not an example of implicit language instruction. Remember, implicit based on communication-based activity. So it's an example, vocabulary list, immersion, because vocabulary in order to, for example, for students who, for first grade, they're going to introduce expression. This is immersion to English language, and natural conversation in the target language. So those are examples. But here the question is, which of the following is not an example? So content-based instruction. Why not? Because content-based instruction is an approach. The last one. Which of the following is not true content-based learning? A, it increases engagement. B, language becomes a tool for learning rather than the focus. It immerses students in subjects related to the language. And D, it relies on rote memorization and repetition. Which of the following is not true of content-based learning? A, B, C, or D? Number 4, teacher Roberto D. The following is not true of content-based learning. It relies on rote memorization and repetition. This is not true. D, exactly, teacher Leida. Leida and teacher Roberto. Excellent, my dear teachers. Well, my dear teachers, the time flies and it's time to say goodbye. This is all for today. Here you have the answer key. Thank you so much. Do you have any question, any comment, please? Let me know. Today we'll review situations and we'll review different approaches. And we review some situations, and next class we are going to continue with more situations in order to practice approaches. Right, teachers? Thank you so much for your interaction and congratulations. Organize your time and review information and practice again and again and again. Right? Thank you so much. Be positive, good attitude, and repeat every day in front of your mirror. I am going to pass my minute exam. Alternative letter A, yes. B, yes. C, yes. Choose the correct alternative. See you soon. See you tomorrow. No, tomorrow, no. Next class. Next class. Tomorrow, no. Okay, teacher. See you next class. Thank you so much. Have some blessings and take care. Have some blessings. Thanks. Nice class. Thank you, teacher Roxana. Yes. Peter, thank you, teacher. Teacher Leida, thank you, teacher. Okay, my dear teacher Leida. Goodbye. Take care. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, teacher Peter. You, teacher Roberto. Next class. Yes, next class. Next week. Thank you, teacher Luz. Teacher Goni, thank you. Thank you. Nice class. Thank you. Goodbye. Take care. Have some blessings. Thank you. Thank you, teacher Gloria. Thank you, Cantuta Master. Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you, teacher Gloria, Luz, Pete, Roberto. It was a pleasure. Thank you, teacher Roberto. Where are you from, my dear teacher? I am from Chiclayo. And you? Pepe. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure.